everybody, welcome back again to Talks with Finthentic. Today I am very pleased to have a friend and fellow professional from the industry, Stefanos Sordini.
Hi.
From Netshop IPS. And I want to, before we get into the questions, maybe Stefanos, you can share with us, clearly you're from the business, you're well known. Not just do you do hosting, you host dinner parties, which are somewhat famous now in the industry. How did you get into the hosting business and the server business?
So, hi everyone. Hi Alex. So, my early days in the hosting industry started when I was back in high school. More like hosting corporate websites and doing SEO optimization. Let's say the merge of hosting with the fintech industry came in 2010. So since then,
long time ago, different world.
Yeah. So hosting is a very challenging 24/7 industry. Good thing before cryptos is that Forex was 24/5. So I would say that since 2009, early 2010, it was when we started onboarding Forex brokers and seeing hosting from a different perspective because of different needs. No downtime allowed.
Yeah.
Whereas on websites you could afford a few hours of downtime.
The broker, it's people's money. They have to also regulate. So it's a very serious service that you're providing.
Yes, it wasn't a service we could provide. A few guys working from home, so we had also to structure the company with 24/7 shifts. People getting trained to assist brokers. Yeah. People to get trained to know the popular trading platforms to assist customers. So this is how things
you grew. It sounds like 2010. It's the same year CTrader was released, 2010, 2011. It sounds like you very much grew your business as the industry.
Yeah. And the business grew organically. Without external investors. By word of mouth, we're doing good job with one company, they were referring us to another, and that's how it evolved.
Yeah.
Which is very, is very healthy in my perspective.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't have, if people only speak good about your service and your product, that's the best marketing. So you mentioned that you started there and you started understanding the needs and you expanded in terms of support, availability, staff, and obviously behind all of this there is a broad tech stack or there's a broad infrastructure structure that the broker needs to have.
Yes.
And we can break these down into platform. Many platforms are self-hosted, some more today are hosted by the provider. There is the bridge which needs hosting. There's different aspects that the broker needs to. Can you touch a bit on this? Like, why is it important for the broker to take? I feel like a lot of brokers discount hosting.
Yeah.
So hosting is just hosting, but why do they have to first have a clear view of their infrastructure, and then why do they have to have a clear understanding of where it's hosted and why?
Yeah. So we can split the hosting part into what's required to be self-hosted and what's possible to be self-hosted and what is offered as a service, meaning a broker goes to a technology provider where they can get liquidity, bridge, or even a white label of the platform and get hosted. Even in the case of as a service, the broker should request more information because where and how the service that he gets is hosted, it impacts on the good side or the bad side the service provided to the brokers, traders afterwards. Meaning, let's take an example. There is a brokerage who is targeting Asia. So if your technology provider will provide you a server hosted in London, then we're talking about huge latency.
Yeah.
So even if hosting, because it is taken for granted.
But there may be a reason to be in London because the LPs and the bridges.
Correct. So this is where the some expertise or some external advice may be needed, because even if the main server needs to be hosted in London because of the LPs or whatsoever, there are things a broker can do to minimize the latency between the
London
traders and the main trade server. There are startup brokers who don't have the resources internally to have a group of 10, 18 people. So there are companies who can do that.
I feel also, because we at Finthentic, we deal very much with startup brokers, I feel also they don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
And again, they heavily discount this. Okay, it's hosted, it's done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always suggest, speak with your provider. They should try to educate you, and you should use that opportunity to educate yourself.
Yeah. I mean, if we were having this discussion 5 years ago, hosting in Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong would be insanely expensive. Nowadays is way more affordable, and the value a broker gets by being located near their the locations where the traders are. If we talk about Asia, it's 200% value for money.
Yeah.
And this is it falls under the the topic of latency, which is a huge topic. But in the end, when we are talking about forex trading or crypto trading, it all comes down to latency.
Yeah.
Latency is something everyone talks about, whether they are professional traders utilizing
strategies,
yes, expert advisors, bots, whatever, or the brokers, liquidity-wise, they want the smaller latency with their LPs.
For sure.
So
latency, there's a big brokers like to market, their spreads, and how they show their spreads, how they're tight, but you don't really see brokers parading about how good their latency is.
Yeah.
And I think again it's a big selling point. So if you have, let's take this example, if you have a lot of volume in Southeast Asia, and not only can you go to your traders, the account managers, whoever is in best contact with them, and say, okay, not only do we have the best spreads, but we also have the best latency.
Yeah.
It's a major selling point.
Yes, because of course why there are brokers who will introduce by themselves some latency.
Yeah.
It's of course it's not ethical. I don't even know if that's 100% legit.
It's something that it may come from the broker, it may come from the liquidity provider, and you can actually understand how good and how serious your liquidity provider is by what kind of latency they send. Indeed, many working parts.
Yeah, for me, this topic that nobody wants to touch, it's like when you go out on a casino, you spend your night and you don't win. Everyone says that there is a magnet at the bottom of the roulette, and
after you've lost your money.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, it's not that everyone is doing it. It's not that they're not doing it. Some may say that latency is introduced to, let's say, protect the brokerage from those traders who are trading on, volatile market activity and stuff like that. But the majority of the brokers, even if that is just on the marketing side, they need to promote more about the latency. One of the ways that they are indirectly doing that is by offering VPS. Right. So when you see on a broker's website that they offer VPS, then it means that, of course, they do it to expand their, to add value on their overall service.
The traders can run their bots.
Yes. but they do it so that they can reach to markets which are far away from their main infrastructure, whether that is Singapore or London or Amsterdam or the US. A VPS will help to reach traders who are latency wise far away from the platforms.
So Stefano, another thing that I think we should absolutely touch on, and just like brokers, they don't ask enough questions about, is disaster recovery. What can a broker do in terms of their hosting? What should they have in mind to have secure disaster recovery in place?
So the disaster recovery, when it comes, for me to advise some clients, I always say this example that in a newly developed neighborhood, nobody will put in place CCTVs until there is the first breach in a house in the neighborhood. So it's exactly the same with forex brokers and the fintech industry in general. Whilst it's a technology-based industry, the disaster recovery as a strategy and as a design and putting it in practice, it's very underestimated and heavily discounted as a perception, even to the CIOs and CTOs. So until a company will face downtime, disruption, and maybe even compensate traders for the damage that happened.
So they take a loss to actually pay out of their pocket.
Only then, unfortunately, they will think about disaster recovery. The fun part for me is that it shouldn't be thought as $500,000 investment to do disaster recovery.
I think the startups, they kind of just brush over it very quickly because this is going to cost us so much money. We'll get to it later.
I like doing conversations with examples, and I will give an example with iPhone. If you count a lot on the media and the data you have on your iPhone, and you get the pop-up like storage is full
all the time. All the time.
So this is the decision making point. For $299, if I lost everything, will I be okay?
My videos, my
everything.
Contacts.
So for $299, I will back up to iCloud. So this is the thing. A disaster recovery plan can be a simple backup low spec server hosted with a different provider, even better if it's on a geographical,
different locations.
Different locations. So let's say you have your main server in London, you still want Europe, so you can have a backup server in Amsterdam. If you want to be, continent proof, you can have your backup server in Singapore, and so on. So that's better.
And the cost is negligible. It can be negligible.
Yes, I mean, you can be paying for a backup server for 12 months or 11 months, and it might come a point that you will say, this is an expense. Why am I paying this? You will not have this thought when you need to switch to your backup server for 2 hours disruption. So you are paying a very small fraction of the price of what your main infrastructure is, just to be able to mitigate for 1 hour disruption. That 1 hour disruption without having a backup server might cost you thousands of euros.
It can cost you not just money, but also your reputation and such. Good point. Absolutely good point.
So this is the thing that I always tell people: don't think disaster recovery as a consultant coming to your office and having to pay 10,000 euro to have that big of a report of what you need to do. It's simply ensuring a backup of your business critical software.
And work even if you're a startup, right? You don't have a massive budget. Work with your providers such as to discuss pricing. There's ways to put together competitive packages. Okay, the last thing that I think would be interesting to cover, especially with everything going on now, is that the platforms that are easily and readily available now are mostly hosted by the provider.
Yes.
But there are still other parts of the infrastructure that need to be, or that the broker has an option way to host. So let's talk about, for example, hosting your bridge and why who you go with and what they give you is a difference.
Yes. So first of all, bridge is for me, is one of the most critical parts of your, trading infrastructure ecosystem. Bridge is something that most of the times the broker needs to host by themselves. The question, the answer to the question where and how should I host it should always be in let's say communication with the bridge provider. For example, a startup broker starting with zero volume of trades and let's say 20 clients will require different specs for the same bridge that another broker is hosting who has 100k clients. So if we take the aspects that are critical even for non-technical people in the industry that they can ask is CPU, compute power, SSDs. These two aspects are the ones that, let's say, will impact the performance of the bridge. Even if you have everything in your ecosystem up and running, all good, if your bridge is facing disconnections, freezes, then immediately you have impact on your traders, on your liquidity flow. So that's why I said for me it's the liquidity bridge is the key.
And also, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of times, so the war with latency, a lot of times everyone's looking elsewhere, but that can actually come from where your bridge is hosted.
Exactly. So you can even have, as we said before, disaster recovery on the bridge. So this is another very important question that the technology provider that you will go for the actual software bridge, they need to ask whether there is possibility to have a backup server for the bridge. So we go back to the disaster recovery question. You don't need a plan. You don't need 6 months to design your business continuity. You just need a backup server, hosted somewhere, sleeping, but have the bridge software installed. And in the case of disruption, the disruption might
switch
be
over.
And liquidity can start flowing again.
Perfect. Okay, I think we touched on some very good points. Is there anything else you'd like to add? We went over tech stack infrastructure, we went over disaster recovery, we went over latency, which I think frankly that's the most alpha. Anything else, just a last alpha delivery?
Well, I would pinpoint the disaster recovery part, that even established brokers that they may have an insane amount of servers already hosted somewhere with an existing provider in an existing location, there is always time to think and implement quickly backup scenario. So backup scenario sounds more feasible than disaster recovery. So you just need a minimum set of servers to ensure that your business can be up and running when a disruption or disaster happens on the primary one.
So if you don't have a backup recovery plan in place now, open that conversation with your provider today.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Perfect. Guys, thank you very much for joining again. Stefanos Sordini from Netshop and myself, Alex from Finthentic. We'll see you in the next one.